Hey, topic of the day. So today I'm going to talk about something that people have asked me before. They asked me, what's it like to be an autistic dad or be autistic and be a dad? And I don't think that's really the question they're asking. Because honestly, I don't know. If that's the question, I don't know. Because I know what it's like to be me. I know what it's like. I know what the literature says. I know how that information and knowledge and whatnot has played out in my life, what my actual experience is, how those relate. But I don't even technically know what it means to be autistic. Heck, neuroscience is still figuring that out. And the more they figure out, the more unique each individual that qualifies that seems to be. So, I just know what it's like to be me. And is that different from a lot of other people? Yes, I've learned very much so in the past. So I definitely know I evaluate things differently. I operate differently. I, feel differently in a lot of ways from what I've learned. And I know what it's like to be a dad. But I only know what it's like to be a dad of one kid for 1.25 years. And 2 kids for another 1.75 years after that. And now 3 kids for 7 months. And I know what it's like to be a dad of 3 under 4 years old. Most people that have multiple kids spread them out by 3 to 5 years. So, when I talk about this kind of stuff, that's the place it's going to come from, is being a dad of 3 kids that are close in age. Having a dog, having a wife that's bipolar and ADHD, and the way that we have to navigate ourselves with all that. And then, but when people ask that question or want to talk to me about that, I think what they're really asking is they're asking about how do all of the ways that autistic people are apparently different, supposedly different, play out as being a dad. And I recently heard a person that I believe is autistic basically talking about what they conceptualized becoming a parent and being autistic would be like, and they were talking about some of the negatives. And I thought about that when I thought about making this video, and I was like, I think that's what people are really asking. They're thinking about some of the positives and negatives they've heard about being autistic, and they're wondering how that plays out when being a parent, being a dad. Stimulus overload, too much noise, too much light, too much touching, those sorts of things. Yeah, it happens. Is it as bad as I thought it would be when I learned I was autistic? No, not at all. Now with 3 kids, yeah, it has its moments where literally my brain feels like it's imploding on itself and my nervous system is on fire and being electrocuted. And I can still handle it though. Like there's been like 3 moments where I completely just could not handle it for a little bit of time. And even those were very understandable on how I got there. If given different circumstances, it may be different. Really, like to any autistic person out there that doesn't have kids, one kid was totally kosher. After the first 6 months, like I had a groove again. I was getting routines again. Once we got to a point, we had a nap time and a bedtime and that kind of routine around 9 months, like really, I started hitting a stride again. Like I was feeling good about life, and I was like, man, I can handle one kid. I by no means was I getting ahead of myself, but I was at least like, wow, I once upon a time thought I was going to really suck at this, and that my wife was going to basically have to carry all the weight. Best, I would be a good dad to some teenagers one day once we figured ourselves out. But no, man, like one kid was great. I would definitely tell any autistic person out there that wants to be a parent, have one. I can't tell you how it'll go after that. Because once we had the second, once again, the first 6 months are always rocky and difficult and have their moments and all that. But once we got out of the first 6 to 9 months with the second one, once again, we hit a groove. It wasn't as strong. The routines were a little bit more difficult to get back into place. Was definitely more tired more often. And one of the things you got to remember with kids too, they really shouldn't outnumber the adults in the room. They definitely shouldn't outnumber the number of hands in the room. So one or two, yeah, pretty much I'm going to say that anybody who wants to and has the motivation can get themselves solid enough to handle one or two, from my point of view. Once the third one got here, I'm going to say the last 7 months have been hard. The last several months have been difficult. That has been when some of my moments where, like the 2-year-old is teething, the 3-year-old is in a defiant stage where he wants to say no to everything or change his mind every 5 seconds. And then at some point, the baby and my wife need something. Yeah, that stuff gets overwhelming. That stuff makes me wish I had help and wish I had friends who wanted to come over and spend some time and maybe help me out. And, my wife and I haven't been on a date in a year and a half. Yeah, so that kind of stuff. And really, the biggest thing is the emotional mental side. The days and times where, we've had plenty of money in the bank and everybody's being nice to us and, things are going well. I seem to be able to handle it all for the most part. But times where family or friends have been inappropriate to toxic, times where we have been out of money to the point that it is causing stress and issues, those are the times where it seems like the stuff that I can handle on other days gets to be too much. So yeah, the overwhelm, the overload, the emotions and the mentality has a lot to do with it. When I do my gratitude lists and really keep myself in a positive place and are able to spread acts of kindness and really spend time, quality time with my family during the day, and I just feel solid, at that point I'm just waiting for everybody to grow up a little bit and walk and talk and have all their teeth and get to a place where we can all do stuff together more. That part's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun being a dad. Let me finish this with some positives. Man, I know that when I have positive feelings, they are often bigger than a lot of people. And so when I get positive feelings about my family and my kids, man, it fills me up to the point I feel like I'm gonna pop. It's so great. There are times in life where I have just put in the effort and put in the effort and put in the effort and never heard a thank you. And my 3-year-old is starting to say thank you on his own for washing the dishes, for making him dinner, for taking him to the playground. And that's beautiful. My 2-year-old wants to just follow me around the house and do everything that Dada wants to do, And my 7-month-old, one of the only clear vocalizations we've been able to make out is Dada. And that just fills my heart. It makes me want to literally make this world a utopia, just so I can see my children and children that are happy and healthy and thriving like them, just shine. So what's it like to be an autistic dad? It's awesome. It's hard. It's beautiful. It's overwhelming at times, both in positive and difficult ways. It's filled with emotions. So definitely, you gotta be, the more at peace and comfort you are with feeling and working through your emotions, the better, because kids come with emotions. So yeah, it's an amazing ride that definitely has its moments of difficulty and frustration and overwhelm, and it's just helping me become a better person, better than I could have ever imagined being in certain ways, just by living life every day. If you're autistic out there and you've thought about having kids and you've wondered if you can handle it, yes, you can. You can at least handle one. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. I'm not saying it's always going to feel good, but yes, having children are beautiful. And if that's something you want as part of your life, even if it's 10 or 20 years from now, freaking do it. You know, like my wife and I were hesitant for years, and then my grandmother looked at her and told her that basically she was in charge of the family and that to have some kids. And you know, we didn't see it as our mission, but we definitely opened up to the idea. And now a few years later, here we are. So it's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's everything. It's being a dad is one of those experiences that is all the things, all the stuff. You know, however people say that, like it's the whole spectrum, you know. And I'm not talking about the one I'm supposedly on. Like, it's the spectrum of life magically painting a masterpiece right in front of you. I read a quote yesterday that said, "Our children are not masterpieces we create. They are masterpieces that they are creating themselves, and we are blessed to experience the process and the creation and the joy." And that just summed it all up for me. So thanks for listening today. This went a little longer than I planned, so you have a wonderful day. Chef Daddy 9000 out.